Chatham students. Woo. My name's Pam Vogel. I work for the Human Resources Department, and we are really glad to have you here today, and so excited that you are interested in city government and the types of jobs and career opportunities that we have available here. I help manage the intern program citywide, so we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I would like to introduce our first speaker to you today. Her name is Janet Manuel. She is the Director and EEO and Diversity and Inclusion Officer for the Human Resources Department, and my boss. So without further ado, I would like to invite Director Manuel up to talk with you a little bit about the city and jobs that we have here, and tell you a little bit about herself.
Thanks, man. I chuckle when she says, and my boss, because I'm just Janet, right? So I'm the head of HR for the city, and I love it, right? So how many of you are originally from Pennsylvania? How about from the western part of Pennsylvania? It's the numbers, the western. Pittsburgh, us on this side, Yins on this side, right? Just a few? Okay. So how many are from outside of the state of Pennsylvania? Aha. Love it. My people, thank you. So I'm not originally from Pittsburgh myself. I'm a transplant from Oklahoma. I know you're from Chatham, however. I'm a Sooner, sorry. But the beauty that you and I have in common is that we all made a decision to come to an area that we didn't know or were a part of, right? And so Pittsburgh, and this is a true story, I had the opportunity for a promotion on my job in Oklahoma. And the company, it was a great opportunity, but they gave me two choices: Boca Raton, Florida, or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I know, he's in the front shaking his head like, really, lady? So I came for my interview in Pittsburgh in October. It was snowing profusely. I mean, it was snowing like crazy in October. The week later, I had my interview in Boca Raton, Florida. The regional vice president at the time, once my interview had concluded, had asked me, "Where are you going next? We know they have you set up for another interview with the company. Where will it be?" And I said, "Oh, I'm going to Boca Raton next week." And he said, once I left the office, he told the group, "Well, I don't think we're going to see Janet ever again." And he was surprised when I called and said, "I want to accept the position for Pittsburgh versus Boca Raton." And so when I tell this story, and it is true, a lot of people have the same reaction as some of you. What in the world? So let me tell you about Pittsburgh. The reason I chose Pittsburgh is that it is a diamond in the rough. And so for all of you that have made the decision to come here for your school, when you could have chosen any other school, there had to have been something special about this place. But let's kind of personalize it, about the university, right? About Chatham. There had to have been something that sparked your interest, that said to you, yeah, this is where I want to go versus anywhere else. One, it will help better me. Two, I think I'll have more of an impact and make more of a difference. And so that's why I chose Pittsburgh over Boca Raton. I have no regrets for my decision. The opportunities that have been afforded to me here in Greater Pittsburgh are far more reaching than they ever would have been in Boca Raton. Boca Raton, absolutely beautiful place, but I just would have been a number. I just would have been part of the count. But when I came to Pittsburgh, I was more than just a number. I was more than just in the head count. I actually had the ability to make a difference, make an impact, and have an impact. And so for you, as you start your venture, or some are continuing their venture with Chatham, I'm certain that's part of the reason why you came as well. There's other universities that you could have absolutely chosen to go to. But the time that you spend at Chatham and the impact that you have, would you have been able to have that in any other university? That's just for your question to answer. Not now, but ponder on it. And so I'm here to also talk to you about human resources and the opportunities within the city of Pittsburgh. And I have had the privilege to work in the private sector for the Fortune 500 companies, the large companies. And then when the mayor had made the request for someone from the private sector to come and take a break and come into the public sector and assist, I was able to raise my hand. And I was given that opportunity. Almost 300 people applied for the opening that I had, right? And so what a great privilege and honor it is for me to still be able to do what I love, and that's human resources, but even more so for the city that I now claim as home, even though I'm not originally from here. And so my challenge to you is the same as it was for myself when I arrived. Embrace this different environment that you've now chosen. Embrace it, but make the most of it, even beyond just the campus of Chatham. There's so much more for you to see and do and be engaged in for Greater Pittsburgh, that once your time has concluded and you're ready to walk the stage and receive your degree, that you too will make the same best decision that I made, and that is to stay in Greater Pittsburgh. So before you graduate, let me kind of go back a few years, right? So as you're embarking on your time at school, there will be internship opportunities. There will be mentorship opportunities. I challenge you to consider the city of Pittsburgh. We have great, phenomenal Fortune 500 companies. Absolutely. I've worked for some of them. But what a great opportunity that is not afforded to everyone is to work in the local government aspect, to have an impact on thousands and thousands of lives. I tell my staff all the time, every time we're doing recruiting or we're hiring or doing anything, that we're just not filling a position, that we're just not processing a piece of paper, that the impact of our work has such a big, large ripple effect that it's beyond measure. And so when we hire our respective EMTs, we're not just hiring someone. That is an individual that will be able to reach someone that is in need of an emergency matter. And that could be someone's aunt, someone's uncle, someone's mom or dad. Even the individuals that we hire in DPW. I tell everyone, please do not knock our refuse drivers. What would Greater Pittsburgh be if our refuge was not picked up? And so I appreciate those workers just as well as anyone else. And I appreciate those workers that we hire that remove the snow, paves the way for the EMTs to get to the person that's in need of an emergency. I appreciate our parks and license and inspection department. I appreciate our parks and recs department. There are some seniors who have no one, but their only entertainment and friendship and interaction is when they go to our senior center. And so if we didn't have that open for them, what kind of life would they have? And then there are individuals who just want to earn a little extra money and just work for the summer for the city. But internships, mentorships, you will be inundated from a lot of organizations in Greater Pittsburgh. But I challenge you to consider the city, to understand that we hire and do more than just police, fire, and EMS. There's over 19 departments within the city of Pittsburgh. And we have over 3,500 employees, but the lives that we impact is the entire city. That's huge. That's far-reaching. And that's something that not many people have that opportunity to be a part of or to contribute to. So you'll hear more from Pam as she continues to interact with your school, and it comes time for you to make that decision. I'm biased. HR is a great department, right? And you'll hear from someone that worked for us in our department that started out as an intern and did a great job and now is a full-time employee. So there's opportunities that people don't consider within public sector. It's always private, and there's nothing wrong with private. But when you really want to make an impact, when you really want to make that difference, public sector, local government, opportunities there definitely are far more reaching. So thank you so much for coming. I wish all of you the best. You'll hear more from the city of Pittsburgh. We are always on campus. With Chatham, we have a great partnership. I appreciate you guys choosing to come and listen to the respective people from various departments of the opportunities and what we do. And I challenge you to not only take that information back, but just consider it as time evolves for you and the conversation and chatter starts about internships and mentorships. Don't forget the city of Pittsburgh. So thank you again so much. Welcome. I wish all of you the best. If you haven't had a Permanente sandwich, put that on your to-do list. But thank you again for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Janet. Next up, I'd like to have Ross Chapman come up. Ross is the director of our Parks and Recreation Department, and I hope that while you're here for your tenure at Chatham, that you take advantage of a lot of the special events and things that we have going on through Parks and Rec. Ross?
Good afternoon. Welcome, you guys. So I'll kind of be brief. I don't launch into this big spiel about being a director of parks, whatever. But what I will say is it's been a weird kind of random journey for me to get here. I've been at the city for 9 years or so. I almost became a student at Chatham much longer ago than that in the landscape architecture program. I think at the time I was working at the Children's Museum of Pittsburgh. I was an assistant director of exhibits and did a whole bunch of cool stuff, looking for something else to do, an opportunity to go back to school, considering it. Met some people on Chatham's campus, talked to some of the recruiters and those folks. But then somehow a job opportunity came up at Carnegie Mellon in the Software Engineering Institute. Nothing that I had really ever done, but it seemed pretty cool, right? With CMU, the SEI, it involved some travel. So I took this weird turn from kind of a career track that seemed kind of linear, and I went to the SEI for a few years, and I learned about software systems and technology transitions, and I traveled a little bit too much, but all over the world, and got to talk to people about stuff they did. But there was something that was kind of missing, and I think it was the ability to be a little bit autonomously creative. Somehow that put me in a couple other weird spots, and I ended up here, but not in Parks and Recreation. I've only been in that department as the director for a couple years now, but like I said, I've been here almost 10 years. So I came in as a manager of a data system and I forget the planning and evaluation, which was workforce development, kind of what HR stuff does, but it was for external folks. It wasn't for city employees, it was for city residents. So summer employment programs and neighborhood employment stuff, the things that fall a little bit more directly to Pam and Director Manuel's world currently used to be kind of my world, but I don't know anything about HR. So even though I was under HR, I don't know it. All that to say that I ended up here, kind of a weird happenstance, to go and help out a little bit in the Parks Department. It's a big department. This time of year we have about 400 people. There's 8 people downstairs, 8 or 9 of us that kind of support everything that's going on. When I got to Parks, there was only 2 people kind of trying to keep the ship afloat. So we've been rebuilding the department. It's been pretty exciting. All that being said, to get where I'm at and to be doing what I'm doing now, I think I kind of had one foot outside the door a little bit in my previous position here. I felt like I had maxed out I didn't have the ability to be really creative. I didn't have a lot of autonomy. It was real structured, a lot of federal guidelines and grant management. Just getting a little bored. So I'm not bored now. I'm overly worked and overly tired and overly busy, but it's good stuff because what we're doing is impacting people directly. So in your pursuit of whatever it is that you want to do, be mindful that sometimes it's just not linear. You may think you're going to do something, you may activate that something, and it may lead you down this whole other trajectory that you end up somewhere you really feel comfortable and you want to be. That's kind of how it works for me, or has worked for me. I am from Pittsburgh, born and bred. Aside from college and stuff, I've been here my whole life. I've seen this city transition from, what it used to look like in the 80s and 90s and prior to that, to what it looks like now. And it's a pretty dynamic place. And maybe some of you guys, as you get to know the city or have learned the city, you're seeing some of that change too. The director spoke a lot about opportunities here. I think there's a host of them. I just got back from looking at the Minneapolis park system. I had never been to Minneapolis before. Awesome city, about the same size as Pittsburgh, square miles. A little bit bigger as far as permanent residents, 420,000 or so, versus I think where the city itself is maybe around 310, I'm not real sure, but somewhere in there. Completely different infrastructure as to how they manage their park system. They have elected officials and a commission that manages it. It was written into their kind of city code that they would have this separate board of elected officials. That's 140 years old. Their park system is amazing. They have a lot of money and it's a completely different structure. But I went there, came back with this host of ideas, and though our resources may be a little bit limited, I think there's some really good low-hanging fruit. I'm saying that too to kind of tie into go out and see some things, whatever you're going to do, whatever you think you want to do, get out there and sample a few things. I can't tell you how many times I changed my major or took a course correction either out of necessity or out of some desire to try something different, but I've always learned something from that, and it's always helped me in the next step of whatever journey I'm on. So good luck to you guys. My department, all the city departments are pretty cool places to work. When you work for city government, and I've had this conversation with the assistant chief of staff this morning, we've been doing a lot of interviewing in our department. The mayor has kind of added this whole plethora of support for the parks department to kind of build it up and kind of advance our initiatives and increase our service delivery. When you work as a civil servant and you work for government, local government more specifically, you really get to see the impact of your work. Whether it's something as simple as you have something to do with road repairs or reparations or something like that, or ADA accessibility, or a program for coding. We just started like a coding camp at one of our rec centers. We're trying to launch some digital inclusion kind of stuff and some tech initiatives. You're really touching somebody in hopefully a positive way. And when you're not, you get a lot of feedback that lets you know you should be doing more. But it all feels well worth it. And I didn't really feel that in my previous position, even though it had a direct connection to people. It feels a little bit differently. So sometimes you just got to keep meandering around till you find what works for you. So good luck. Nice to meet all of you. And take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. And right outside of your campus, or very near, you have one of our great jewels in the city, Shenley Park. So I hope you all take advantage of taking a look at that, even though it's a little closer to the Pitt campus. It's not far. All right. Next up, I would like to invite Shelley Danko-Day. She is from our city planning department. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about her and her department. And she's also the intern coordinator for that department. They are one of our hugest users of interns. I don't mean that in users in a bad way. They have 15 or 20 interns every semester, not just in the summer.
Busy. Hi. So I'm Shelley Danko-Day. I actually my claim to fame with you guys is that I graduated from Chatham, got my master's in food studies, part of the first cohort back in 2012. So that was pretty cool. Such an such an adventure. Are any of you guys in the folk school? Excellent. So I am currently, my position is the Urban Agriculture and Food Policy Advisor for the City of Pittsburgh. I'm in the Division of Sustainability and Resilience in the Department of City Planning. And we have internships available all the time for that. But a little bit more about my trajectory is, like I said, I graduated from Chatham, and prior to that, I was doing some work in urban agriculture, and so the food studies was just right in there for me. So then when Mayor Peduto was elected, and he wanted to have urban agriculture and food policy advisor, and so that's how I ended up where I am, and I am in city planning. I thought I would be in the mayor's office at first, but I ended up in city planning because that's where it was a place where we could build up from the ground as far as policies go, as far as zoning. So the everything that happens in the city starts in city planning. So it's a really big responsibility. So that's why we have so many interns, so because we have so much work and so many different things that are happening at any given time. And we really need more people to help give good ideas. And it's really, we learn something from our interns every semester. It's really great. But it's a really varied department. So we have a lot of things going on. We run the Americans with Disability Act enforcement through our department. We have zoning. So one of the first things that we did, what I did when I got into my position in city planning, was to help to rewrite the urban ag zoning code so that it could be more friendly for people to be able to have chickens and bees in the city. And we even added miniature goats. So those are legal and they're permitted by right. So it used to be, when it passed in 2011, people had to go through a variance process, which cost $370 and took about 6 months, and you had to go in front of a board of lawyers and defend your right to have chickens. So we made it permitted by right, so it's an over-the-counter permit, and I think it's now $90, it used to be $70 at the time, but it goes with your house. So then your house has this added value where you can have chickens and bees or miniature goats in your property. And we also made urban agriculture a primary use of land permitted by right, which means, like, a lot of other cities do an urban agriculture overlay, and we don't have to do that because we allow it in almost all zoning districts except for downtown and eds and meds. So like Oakland, there's not a lot of opportunity there. But anyway, so zoning is in city planning. Environmental stormwater, we work with the FEMA rules all the time and review a lot of floodplain plans. Land use policy, neighborhood planning is a big one too. And then we have like specialized ones around arts and archival. We have our arts commission is actually older than the planning commission in the city of Pittsburgh. Zoning came into effect in the 50s. So prior to that, it was a free-for-all. But art has been not monitored, but like structurally implemented for over 100 years. So that's pretty cool. And we have an arts commission that looks at everything that's on city property, all the art, and we also maintain a lot of art within our collection. Then we have a lot of design and architecture internships. We have a whole GIS division in city planning, which is really cool. We have 5 people that make all of our maps. I actually didn't think I belonged in city planning when I first got there, and then I realized there were maps involved, and I was all about that. I've always loved maps. Maps are a thing that you used to use to get around before phones were a thing. It's for real. It was great. Compass and a map. You can do it. Try it. And then we have, since zoning is a lot of law issues, we have some legal internships with ADA and also with zoning. And housing policy and that sort of stuff. So it's a really interesting, diverse department. And like Pam said, we do usually have a lot of interns. Our internship program has been around for 20 years. We've been having interns in city planning. Many of the people who are interns are now staff in various departments, not just in city planning, but many in city planning. And we really do our best to make sure it's not just a copying and filing internship. It's a real work internship. It gives you really real experience, and we have you work on real projects that you can actually see implemented. One of my interns is just finishing a report, and she just really took initiative and made it into this amazing final product, and we're actually going to meet with some city councilors on Monday, her last day, to show it to them. So that's the kind of like real work, real world work that you can get involved in city planning. So hope you guys will consider that. Thanks.
Thank you, Shelley. Next up, I would like to have Lindsay Powell speak with you. She is from the Mayor's Office, Assistant Chief of Staff, and she'll have a lot of great things to share with you.
My name is Lindsay Powell. I serve as the Assistant Chief of Staff to the Mayor, and I largely work on legislation and policy in the equity and inclusion world. So not so much who we hire or anything like that, but more externally. So thinking about how do you build an accessible city? How do you think about equity in neighborhoods? How do you right a lot of systematic and historic wrongs? So that means anything in my day from economic development, affordable housing, women and families, public art, land use, land care, so it's kind of all over the place. I have a love for local government because it's a way to make a difference in communities. I've worked at the federal and state level as well, and local government is truly where you get to see, hey, even better. Hi, Mayor. Yeah, come on in. All right. It's a group from Chatham, and they're just talking about why local government and trying to get them to work here, hopefully, in the future.
Nice. So how many of you guys are from Pittsburgh? Some? Okay. And the rest from outside of Pennsylvania? How many? Nice. Okay, well, welcome to Pittsburgh, guys. This beautiful building was built a little bit over 100 years ago for the 100th anniversary of the city. And if you look around, I don't know if you've been told the history of this room. All the mayors of the city of Pittsburgh are in the ceiling looking down upon you for the first 100 years, starting over here with Ebenezer Denny, who was the first mayor of Pittsburgh and fought at the Battle of Yorktown with George Washington and Alexander Hamilton. And he kept the diary of all of his time in that war, which is one of the most significant histories of the Revolutionary War. See those wreaths above you that say St. Clair, West Pittsburgh, Elliott, Esplin, Allentown, Belts Hoover, Temperanceville, Lawrenceville? They were all townships and boroughs. They had their own councils, they had their own mayors, they had their own little government, and they were annexed and created the city of Pittsburgh. For 100 years, we were annexing all these different communities and creating what would be the city of Pittsburgh. Then we annexed the big one. We got the big fish. It was called Allegheny City, and we call it the North Side now. And after that happened, people said, that's it, no more, and you got your city. So the city of Pittsburgh hasn't changed that much since around the 1920s. And if you go down the rows and then you see me, I'm over there, you have the mayors for the next 100 years. And that's where we're at right now. We're at about 202 years of history. One of the other things to look at when you're in this room, you'll see it almost looks like an acorn with a checkerboard in the middle. That's the seal of the city of Pittsburgh. It was the coat of arms of William Pitt, who Pittsburgh is named after, who was the Prime Minister of England during the French and Indian War. William Pitt was the Earl of Chatham, which is what your campus is named after, and you'll notice that the seal of Chatham University is very similar to the seal of the city of Pittsburgh. One other thing to notice, the flag. There's a reason the Pirates, the Steelers, and the Penguins all wear black and gold. It's because they're our city's colors. We're like a big high school. We have all the same uniforms, and we have the school colors as well. And then you'll see what the architect did is he took the different designs from the seal, the eagles. And you'll see the eagles in different areas. He took the checkerboard, and you'll see that, and you'll see the castle, and put it all throughout this room so that it's all incorporated into what this city council chamber would be. But if you look real closely, you'll see these things. The tools of heavy industry. 100 years ago, Pittsburgh, and you can see there's a saw behind that. Even up at the very front, the eagle sits on the gears of industry. And that's what Pittsburgh's history was. So why local government? Because everything happens at the local level. Everything in your life that is important. When you wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth, that water isn't poison. When you drive down the road and the light turns green, knowing that the other light turned red. Every different part of your day-to-day living comes down to your local government. And here's the most amazing thing about it and why local government is probably an area you'd like to consider. The world's biggest problems can't be solved at the national level. We cannot solve the refugee crisis that's only going to get worse at the federal level. It comes down to cities that say, we can take 250 more. We can take 4,000 more. We can, in working on a global level. We can't solve the climate crisis at the federal level. It's only done at the local level, where we say we're going to reduce our carbon footprint by 50% in the next 12 years. We're going to eliminate landfill in the next 12 years. In the next 12 years, we're going to be using 50% less energy, 50% less water, and everything that we do at the local level will be 100% renewable. And then having 9,000 cities agree to do the same thing. And that's what's happening. The global covenant of mayors has been created over the course of the past several years to be able to take on the big issues that the federal governments are failing to deliver on. And we're working together across borders, across politics, across anything that would divide us. And we're working together as one to take care of our constituents, the people, and doing it in a way that is void of political difference. So if you want to find something refreshing and not the poisonous vacuum that we live in today of government, look toward the local level. Look toward the leaders around not only this country, but around the world. And you'll see that things happen at that smaller scale that can't happen at the larger. And one last thing, it's only the past 500 years of mankind that we have decided to create these federal government structures. Before that, it's always been city-states, and that's how we worked and were able to succeed. And there is potentially a de-evolution that will occur during your lifetimes where more power will come back to the local level. So enjoy, guys. You have an absolutely beautiful campus and a great school, and enjoy your time in Pittsburgh. Yep. Sure. All right, let's go up here. Thank you. I was just showing the chamber. Thank you. No, have to come on up to the eagle. Huh?
Hey, yo, what's up, man?
You got the gavel. We're going to need some on the left.
I
I'll be here. I was here
Someone
first.
able to even be able to stand behind you or right up in here.
If you guys can see right over here at about, I don't know what that would be, 1:30, there's a mayor whose name is Joe Barker. Joe Barker, 1850. Do you see it? I used to sit under him, and I always wondered, who was Joe Barker? Must have been an amazing guy. So I looked up his history. Joe Barker was elected the mayor of Pittsburgh while in prison. He had been imprisoned for threatening to kill the bishop of the Catholic Church, and the mayor had placed him in jail. While he was in jail, his friends said, "You know who'd make a really good mayor? Joe." So they ran him as a write-in candidate in a new political party called the Anti-Catholic Party. They were not very subtle back in those days. And this was part, if you ever saw the gangs in New York, and when the Irish and the German immigrants were coming over before the Civil War, and they were told, "We don't want you here, go back." This was during that area, they called the Know-Nothing area. And Joe won. His friends busted him out of prison and took him down to City Hall, and the judge said, "Not so fast, Joe. You still have to serve your term. You got to go back to jail." So he went back to jail. He got sworn into office in January, and the pardon had not come in from the governor, so he spent his first night as mayor in prison. He then got the pardon the next day. First thing he did is he fired all the police officers, and he hired his friends to be the police. And that caused sort of a civil war in the streets of Pittsburgh. And mind you, he was only the mayor for a year. He went on to then arrest the bishop. And he arrested him for an illegal sewer tap-in at Mercy Hospital, saying he had illegally connected his sewers to the city's system. And while the bishop was in prison, the Catholic Cathedral, which is right on Grant Street, right down the street from us, burned to the ground. And the police, who were his friends, never found out who did it. Joe Barker was the mayor of Pittsburgh for 1 year. He was illiterate. He tried running for office several other times. He never did succeed, and after the Civil War, he was found decapitated on the railroad tracks of Allegheny City, which we call the North Side.
Wow. Yeah. And you were like, wow, he's great.
Okay, everybody. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Cheese.
Cheese.
Those are called the good old days. All right. Hey, have fun, guys. Have a great weekend, too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Well, this is great because you got to stand up a little bit and stretch rather than just listening to people for an hour or so. Oh, you're welcome. Lindsay, would you like to finish up? I know. It's hard to go after him, right?
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. We've got a lot of great internships at the mayor's office, internships and fellowships. We try to make sure that if you're on the team here, you're actually on the team, so it's not a summer or a semester of pushing papers. You're actually helping with legislation and policy. So if anyone's interested, please keep in contact with us. City Hall is always open to you. While you're in Pittsburgh, get to know the neighborhoods. Pittsburgh is a really exciting, vibrant neighborhood, city, and there are tons of neighborhoods inside of Pittsburgh. We have over 90 if you ask certain people, 92 technically. But get to know places outside of Oakland. Go take a bus to Beltuver, go take the T to the north side. So there's a lot to offer here in the city. There are a lot of exciting things to do here, and enjoy your time. Thank you.
I call it the clicker. All right. Next up, I would like to have you speak with Avram Chernoff. He is a staff engineer for our Department of Mobility and Infrastructure and a former intern. So I'd like to have him come up and tell you a little bit about his career path and history and what he does now for work for the city.
Is mic on right here?
Yes.
Afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? Yeah, everyone doing all right? I'm very informal here. So, as Pam said, my name is Avram Chernoff. You can call me Avi. I'm a staff engineer. I went to Penn State University, graduated in 2017 with my civil engineering degree with a concentration in structures. And I work for the Division of Mobility and Infrastructure. That's a mouthful, so we just call it DOMI. DOMI is your streets, your structures, your walkways, everything we move on, everything you see, your cars, your intersections, your lights, anything that you consider motion, anything that could be dangerous, anything that could cause an accident, potentially kill or injure somebody. That's one of the things that we as engineers try to focus on, limiting those to the utmost of our capabilities. Is there anybody in the audience who is actually an engineer or planning to be an engineer? That's all right. You guys you don't have to be engineers to appreciate engineering. Has anybody driven on a bridge before? Oh, okay, there we go. There's the hands. So as a structural engineer, my focus is bridges. I love bridges. I grew up here in the city of Pittsburgh. I grew up in Squirrel Hill. I went to East Hills Elementary School. Then I went to Frick Elementary, and then that's Taylor Alderdice, Penn State. And then afterwards, I came here for an internship, which developed into a full-time career path. And something I really, really appreciated about being here at the city of Pittsburgh was the fact that I did receive a lot of work. I received more work than the normal intern would. And as some of my colleagues mentioned, it's not just pushing paperwork. I was given projects. I was given responsibilities that I was really a little uncomfortable with. Here in the city of Pittsburgh, due to our topography, we have a lot of hills. And with a lot of hills, there's a lot of landslides. That's an issue around here. It's pretty serious. With the weather and the rain, one of the things that engineers try to do is manage stormwater. And being the city of bridges and having our rivers, there's a lot of flooding that goes on from time to time. And those cause landslides. Landslides can kill people, drown cars. Lots of things happen that way. As an intern, back in 2015, when I first started working here, I was given a project to work on. It was a development up in Hayes neighborhood. There had been constant landslides from this roadway where we had been diverting water off onto the open hillside. And due to the current stormwater management system that they had there, it was sliding yearly, very actively, and it was causing a lot of damage to the stream and the road below. During my time there, I was working on a management system that would reroute the water parallel to the roadway, slowing it down, and then safely entering the stream where it could continue on its way. Now, one of the things that was more so troublesome with my internship was that a lot of times it's hard to delegate work to an intern. We hold things very dear to ourselves, and sometimes it's hard to let it go and pass it along to someone else. We want to make sure that we do the work ourselves. We want to make sure it's done right. But when you have a staff that's not as large, or when you have people that aren't as available, you have to delegate work, and you have to be able to trust those around you. And that's why some of the internships that we have here are so important, because they really do get the exposure that you may not receive somewhere else. So I worked on this stormwater drainage project, and they didn't want to build it, They were like, oh, this intern did it, and we don't want to accept the design, and it doesn't really make any sense, and it's not gonna happen. They didn't have the money for it, they didn't want to do it. And I was a little disheartening, but it was what it was, and I let it go. The following year in 2016, I returned for another internship with the city of Pittsburgh. And again, I worked on numerous projects. I worked on some bridge projects as well, a couple rehabilitation projects, landslides also. And the following year, in 2017, when I graduated, I was granted another internship where I worked again on landslides and bridge projects. And it was, the workload kept increasing, and my responsibilities kept growing and growing, and the family that I built here became more trusting, and delegating work became easier for them. And in 2018, I was granted a full-time position here as a staff engineer. And I remember a colleague and friend of mine came up to me not too long ago. He said, "You still have those designs that you did back as an intern?" I said, "Yeah, I have them." He said, "Good, because we got the money and we're doing your project." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, we're doing your project. It's going in the ground." I said, "Okay." So we put together the work, gave him all the paperwork I had that I had done years ago, and currently that project is almost at completion. The last thing they have to do is pave the road. There's a full drainage system there, diverting the water from the hillside, hopefully stopping all the landslides that were there years and years before that. That was something that I held very dear to myself, that they could take that project and physically put it in the ground. You know, as a lot of the speakers that came before me said, local government, you see the effects. It really is something to behold when you have something that you hold dear to yourself, that you've worked on for maybe sometimes more than just one summer. And then to come back and physically see the people's faces when they're doing construction, to have them ask questions and say, "Oh, you guys are doing this project here and you're gonna stop the road from subsiding." Yeah, we are. We're gonna do the project, we're gonna have this wall here, we're gonna divert the water down, and it's gonna go safely into the stream below it. And hopefully there won't be any more landslides there. And that's such a good feeling. It's really something that I never truly grasped until they came to me and said, "Yeah, we're gonna make this happen. We're gonna do your project." And ever since then, I've just been really, really, really enjoying the work that I had to do here. Every single day when I go out into the field, go check out a bridge, go see a landslide, talk to a resident, talk to a homeowner, to see someone come out of their house and say, "Oh yeah, I'm here to inspect the landslide that's behind your property," and they just want to know that they're being looked after, that they're being taken care of, that someone is thinking about them. That's the kind of change and effect that Mayor Peduto talked about. That's the kind of change that you can have working with local municipalities. It really does bring a lot of emotions when you get to that position. So I encourage you guys to seek internship opportunities. Talk to your friends, talk to your family members, talk to people that came before you, brothers, sisters. See if you can shadow someone. See if you can find yourself a mentor, someone who shares your same goals, someone who would look after you, someone who thinks the same way, someone who has your passion, someone who's focused on getting you where you need to be. Because those are the people that are going to help you get your project done. Those are the people that are going to delegate the work to you because they trust you and they know you. And those are the people that are going to invest in you, and their investment will be returned as well. So thank you. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for being here with us, and thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you, Avi. To echo what he said, how many of you this is your first year? The majority? Okay. Well, I got that it was new and transfer students. So oh, that's okay. I just wanted to ask. It may be a little over. There you go. More than you thought. Okay, so you might be a little further on. First year students may be hard to want to pick up an internship or something like that. I certainly understand it, but we're trying to plant the seeds early so you think about us later. Now, next up, I would like to introduce Jordan Jenkins. He works for the Department of Human Resources, and he was recently... Haley? Okay, that's fine. Next up is Haley Platt. She was also an intern for us this past summer in the mayor's office, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about her and her work and how she got here.
Hi guys, my name's Haley, and I am the special assistant to Mayor Peduto, who you got to meet briefly earlier. So I started out as an intern 3 months ago, so I've only been in my new position for about a month. I just graduated from the University of Pittsburgh in April with a triple major in Russian, French, and political science with a certificate in Russian and Eastern European studies. So if anybody tells you it can't be done, it can be done in 4 years. You can do it. So I came to Pittsburgh. I moved here 4 years ago this week, and had never been to Pittsburgh before. Move-in day was the second time I had ever been to Pittsburgh. And obviously I loved it enough that I chose to start my career here. So I came to college wanting to be a paleontologist, and something changed along the way, and I took up some, I had been taking French since high school and added Russian along through ROTC, and became interested in political science. So I followed my passions, became friendly with Mayor Peduto, and when I was looking for a job, he asked me to come work for him. So that is how I got here. A little bit of college advice for everyone. You never know who you're going to meet along the way or where you're going to meet them. So keep in touch with those connections and utilize them. It could be a professor, it could be Mayor Peduto just walking into your college meeting, or anyone you meet along the way. So keep those connections and use them, because especially at the City of Pittsburgh, we are always looking for new faces, and interns are a huge deal around here. So does anybody have any questions? I know a lot of people have been talking at you. No? Okay, all right, thanks guys.
Thanks, Haley. I'll fix that later. All right, next up then is Jordan Jenkins. He is a talent acquisition coordinator for the Human Resources Department, and he started as an intern with us for the summer, earlier this summer, and he started his job about 2 weeks ago, right? Come on over, Jordan. Do you want the mic or do you want to stand?
I can stand over here. How's everyone doing? That's good. So as introduced, my name is Jordan Jenkins. I was born and raised here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was brought up in the Hill District community, which is not too far from here, and it's about like 20-25 minutes away from your all campus, Chatham University. So a little bit about me. I went to a high school known as University Prep. It was a high school with about 200 to 300 students in total. Ended up graduating top 3 in my class. And I went on to Penn State University, Maine. And at the time, it was a huge transition for me, being that I was coming from a small campus to being that I came from a small high school to a campus with thousands of students, class size about 300 people in most of my classes that I was taking. And it was kind of rough for me, and I didn't do too well academically, which was one of the worst academic careers that I ever had. I ended up getting a 1.4 GPA my freshman year. And due to that, I had to be on academic probation, and that led to me thinking that I had to pay for school out of pocket. So I ended up transferring to a campus much closer to home, which is Penn State University, Greater Allegheny, a branch campus of Penn State, Maine. And at first I was commuting, and then I came to the conclusion, well, after I had spoken with a few of my advisors on campus, they told me that I still have the opportunity to keep my scholarships if I were to get above 2.0 my first 2 semesters. So with that, I just made the decision to work as hard as I could. And throughout that first semester, I also made the decision to move on to campus just to get the full college experience. And I would say that helped a lot, being that I was able to sleep. I was able to get more sleep and not have to worry about how I'm gonna get to school, get to class every morning. So that was a good decision that I made on my end. And I ended up finishing at that campus with a bachelor's degree in business marketing and management, with a 3.0 overall GPA. And I ended up finishing my last semester with a 3.894. And later on, after I graduated, I had found out that with that high GPA, I landed on the dean's list. So I kind of hold that dear to my heart, being that my freshman year, my overall GPA was a 1.4, and I brought it up to a 3.0, which is hard work to do in college. A lot of A's, some B's here and there. But after graduation, I ended up doing an internship through a local organization known as Partner for Work. If any one of you wanted to know more about that, I'd be glad to answer any questions afterwards. So I did my internship through Partner for Work here with the city of Pittsburgh. Placed here with the city of Pittsburgh, and it was an 8-week summer internship. And everyone here, I would say most of everyone here welcomed me with open arms and things like that. For those that didn't, their arms kind of opened more as I got to know them, some more working with them. There was also about 6 other interns as well. One of them, was he fully blind? Or Angelo? Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, he was fully blind and partially deaf, and deaf in his right ear, or his left ear, I'm sorry. And one of the coolest dudes I ever met before in my life. And he kind of made the internship like a great experience as well. So aside from that, I just worked my best for this 8-week internship. And being that I worked so hard, the director, which was Janet, who had spoken earlier to you all, she had wanted to bring me in full time. She interviewed me, and I accepted the job. So it's a huge, like Pam had said, I just started last week. So, and then going into my 3rd week on Monday. And it's a huge transition from high school to college, and from college to your first job or career. We say careers here. Your first career outside of college, a lot more responsibility and things that basically, a lot more responsibility, but I think you all would do well, being that you'll be in college for however many years it may be, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on how many credits you want to take in a semester. But I think college would pave the way to how you handle those kind of responsibilities and whatnot. And as you may have known, like, there have been a lot of interns that have come to work here and then ended up getting hired full time. So I hope that you would take advantage of that opportunity if you wish to work and stay in the city of Pittsburgh. And yeah, that's all.
We do have some drinks and some chips and cookies and things. We have some drinks and cookies and chips and things for you out front. But I wanted to tell you just a little bit more about the city. We have 3 elected officials. Well, we have 3 bodies of elected officials. We have the mayor, we have our controller, Michael Lamb, and then the city of Pittsburgh is, all of our neighborhoods are divided up into 9 districts, and we have 9 council members, one who represents each one, and they're up there. You can look at them online as well, find out which council person represents where you live. and also and where you go to school. And then we also have, as Director Manuel said earlier, we have about 19 different city departments. We hire, this is my spiel when I go to a job fair, we hire bricklayers and truck drivers and clerical folks, right? But we also hire fire, police, and EMS. We also hire architects and accountants and civil engineers like Avi here. And we have accounting folks and HR people. So we hire the gamut, professionals to what is traditionally seen as blue-collar workers as well. We have 3,500 employees. So we have pretty much something to offer everybody. If you have a passion for city government, want to get involved, like everybody before me has said, you really can see the impact. I worked for the city for 16 and a half years. I left for a little while. I had a little break in between. I worked in a family business with my sisters, which was great, but I missed HR, so I had an opportunity to come back and do something a little different. I have a master's degree from La Roche. My undergraduate was from Pitt many moons ago. I've lived in the city my whole life. I had no idea about the scope and services that the city provided to us until I started working here. So that's just a little bit about that. You may go home during your, if you're not from the Pittsburgh area, you may go home during the summer, of course, after the school year finishes. But I would also encourage you that if you have an interest in local government, y'all live in a local government, you can look and see if they have any internship opportunities or part-time summer jobs available as well. But our internship positions that we have posted are on our regular website, which is www.pghjobs.net. You do have to click the little menu button and select intern opportunities. They're not on the front page. But we have a City of Pittsburgh cup, and I have a little business card that has the instructions on for you, should you like to take advantage of those. I think I have 7 or 8 positions posted for fall, and they come up all the time, different needs. Somebody might leave, and we might need another. Some internships are paid, some are unpaid, so it just depends on what you're able to do. And that's pretty much it for us.